Hello and welcome to another edition of Christian Talk with Lucille Williams. I'm really glad you're here. The other night, I was so troubled that I just kept tossing and turning and had scenarios in my mind of running things through my head of things that I was fearful of and worried about, and I'm tossing and turning and tossing, and I couldn't make my mind stop. I couldn't go to sleep because I was feeling so troubled. And I just got out of bed, I got down on my knees, and I got on my knees and I prayed. And I know that sounds really weird because it was the middle of the night, but I just had to just give it to God, and I needed to have a symbol of, okay, I'm lowering myself and I'm giving this to you. And then I just prayed and I just said, Lord, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I can't handle this. I need to give this to you. And sometimes that's what we need to do. When we're feeling just burdened and overwhelmed and troubled, we need to stop and say, okay, I'm giving this to you. And then when we find ourselves thinking about it again, we need to stop and say, okay, Lord, I'm giving this to you. I'm giving this to you, and pray about it and then offer it to God. Sometimes you got to just do that all day, throughout the day. And really, it's about whether we're going to choose to walk in faith or walk in fear. And today, I'm choosing faith. I am not going to walk in fear. I am going to walk in faith. And the way that I do that, I listen to Christian music throughout the day. I make sure I read my scripture. And when those things come into my mind that trouble me, I just say, no, I'm casting this out, and I'm going to think about the goodness of God, and I'm going to say, no, God, I'm not going to fear this. I'm going to trust you with this. And when I find myself falling into it again, I just keep offering it up to God. So I don't know what you're facing today. You might have just gotten a cancer diagnosis, or you might have just lost a loved one, or you might have just lost your job, or you might be fearful that something might happen. And I just encourage you to just keep giving it to God and just keep casting it out and not make it worse than it is. Just accept what it is and say, okay, this is what it is right here, and I'm giving this to God. Because sometimes when we start thinking about it, then we make it bigger in our head and we start fearing things that never happen. I mean, don't you do that? I do. Sometimes I start the what ifs. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Then what if that happens? Well, what am I going to do if this? Stop. At the end of the day, if blank, then God. If this happens, then God. Whatever it is, if blank, then God. If you lose your job, then God will come through. You give it to God. If you get a diagnosis, then God. Whatever your biggest fear is, if, then God. God is the one we cast all of our fear and burdens on, and He can handle it, and He can help us handle it. And that's my message for today. It's very uplifting, isn't it? Okay, so hey, hit like, subscribe, and check out my book, From Me to We. I know I didn't talk about marriage today, but From Me to We has a lot of great marriage tips. All right, then, you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.